All right, welcome to the party, pals. Let me go ahead and get this pulled up here. All right, so we'll go through our typical introduction, and then we'll go ahead and start talking about some policies, procedures, standards, guidelines, and so forth as well, along with adding that to our CISO Assistant itself. So definitely let me know if you guys can hear me. It should all be coming through nice and clear, although I will be running with no audio, at least on my end. So we're all here for the shared mission. So to break down barriers, foster collaboration in community, working towards a more secure future, and we're all here to learn and grow together. So that's like the big main reason why we do what we do. Not only with these live streams themselves, but also our Thursday meetings, the community itself at large. It goes way beyond just study GRC. There's a lot more out there as well. And then I keep talking about the actual schedule itself, so I'll just go over it really quickly. I'm probably going to get this removed, but Monday, Tuesday, we have our hands-on. Wednesday is our GRC Let's Get Technical. Thursday is our primary meeting at 6 p.m. Central, and then Friday is a 11 a.m. AMA, open stage for everybody. Oh, let's see here. There we go. All right, and then I'm going to go ahead and drop this in chat here. I am there. Okay. The slides just keep going all over the place and now they're gone. So, all right, let me go ahead and pull that back up. All right, that's fine. Well, anyways, while I'm going through technical difficulties here, I probably won't be dropping the stage link, so I'm not even going to go over that section. I don't even have audio on my end. Seems to be an issue with Restream. But another key thing is definitely drop your questions inside of chat. We also have Discord. I just dropped a link for Discord in chat there. You can also @ me in there and then also share your personal LinkedIn or other social media profiles inside of the live chat in our Discord server. And that will actually relay that link through all of the different platforms that we stream to. And then if you do share anything that you don't want to be public, just reach out to myself, either on Discord or LinkedIn, or you can also contact me at contact@studygrc.org. But I definitely want everybody to also feel comfortable asking questions, even if it doesn't pertain to exactly what we're talking about at that time. Worst case scenario, we'll circle back around to it. All right, now... also, we have our website here, which we have not only our calendar, which is going to provide the most up-to-date information, but also our resources page, which is full of stuff. And then also, like, B-Dubs just dropped another article this morning, every single Monday, going through and dropping an article. And then also another really cool thing is B-Dubs has started up that study group for the CISSP as well. And so, like, this morning, let me pull this up. Bam. So ethical hacking, transforming GRC for tomorrow was the article that was dropped earlier today. So definitely go on there, check that out. Provide your feedback, whether it be in Discord or there's also contact stuff on the website itself as well. All kinds of awesome stuff over there. And I'm now just closing things now. Let's see here. Bam. All right. Now, let me go ahead and clear this out. How's everybody doing, GRC Mafia? Hope you guys enjoyed the weekend. All right, let's get this moved over. Bam. All right, so to start off with, so today we were going to talk about policies and so forth. I did want to go over some more of the basic stuff, so I just have a small slide deck here that I wanted to cover just a little bit over. I think it's like 5 or 6 slides there, so that way everybody is also coming with a little bit of knowledge on that front and has a little bit of understanding on where policies actually fall. Let me move this around. Bam. I'm going to go ahead and throw myself up in the top here. Perfect. Regine says, okay for a Monday. Yeah, and then we also got Josh living the dream. 8-bit, can't wait to listen in. More GRC stuff, of course. 8-bit's really getting dug into the GRC side of things, it seems, for, networking. We also got Jeffrey Johnson hopping in, not only IT, Jason, 8-bit, not only, B-Dubs I see in there, Ben Tech hopping in. Welcome to the party, pal. All right, so let's go ahead and get this started here. All right, so understanding policy, standards, procedures, and guidelines. So like I said, I just wanted to provide a little bit of a high-level view of what the differences are. And this this diagram or this graphic here will make more sense here in a moment if you're not familiar, but policies is what's holding it all up. And so it works its way from the bottom to the top. Now on here, it's going to say 1, 2, 3, 4, but really it's in reverse order. So if you think about it as in like building the pyramid, that's the better way to look at it. And so policies, high level information, mandatory information, usually a little bit of vague. And then we have standards, again, specific, but also mandatory typically. And then we have procedures for the step-by-step, which is what I believe most people would think of when you talk about procedures. And then we got the guidelines, which guidelines is kind of an iffy area if you ask me, but we'll know more about it here in a moment. So policy, strategic direction. So formal statements establishing direction, mandatory and broad scope, long-lasting with adaptable framework. We will protect customer data. So what does that actually mean? So the actual policies themselves, that is at the top of the pyramid for the governance for an organization. It's typically the starting point as well. So it is left a little bit of left vague a little bit there. So some examples of this would be like a data protection policy or remote work policy, health and safety policy. So when you're outlining your actual policies, those are organizationally wide. It is where you actually define your stance on different things. Like what do you expect? What are your guys' missions on that? And it is mandatory organizationally wide. It's not something that gets changed very often. A lot of things with that, you'll also see like code of conduct and so forth as well. So high level mandatory statements that defines the goals, the values, and expectations of the organization. And we hear a lot about policies because there are typically a lot of policies, and they're designed not to be extremely defined either. They get a little bit more fine grain as you get down into the next one, which is going to be standards. So I'm going to go ahead and double check chat here. Oh, yeah. See, look at that. 8-bit. Getting so much dug into GRC, dreaming about writing reports the other day. Bam. GRC Mafia. And then B-Dubs is still recovering from the lost hour. Man, that was like 24 hours ago or something. Come on. All right, and so the next one, and I could provide more of these different examples. I actually developed a list here of different examples. I'll actually post into the Discord server after this live stream. So again, I just wanted to push through this, and then we'll actually start adding some of these policies into our CISO Assistant installation like we were doing for the hands-on previously. And then, so we have those policies. Now we move on to standards. So standards, mandatory rules. So this is where it gets a little bit more fine-grained. One really great example on the right-hand side, you'll see there, passwords must be 8+ characters. So for an example, the policy might dictate that, oh, we need to have password requirements. Well, then the standards are actually going to say, well, the password requirements is you must have 8+ characters. It must be, complex with, a minimum of 2 or 3 special characters or something along those lines. And that's where it gets more fine grain as you move down. The terminology of must, should, may. So again, this is mandatory enforcement through audits and monitoring. And this is also where you'll see a lot of these different controls kind of implemented in as well. The standards of like CSF 2.0 and the 53 and those different types of controls that we pull out of there and that actually dictate like, oh, you need to have this, and this. Typically that gets flown into the standard section, although that can also be in the policies at the high level too. Let's see here. Bam. Now on to procedures. So procedures, they're step-by-step instructions. So I think this may be one of the easiest ones that most people have actually come across and worked with, despite what type of industry you've been in. This is an actual step-by-step guide on a particular type of process or otherwise. So like it says here, who does what, when, and how, structured enforcement of policies. So like we could have procedures on our policy management. That would be one example there. There's also another example of password reset process. And so this is just something to where it's documented and somebody else can go to that and be able to replicate that process and understand that process. And then we have guidelines, which is where I kind of feel like it gets a little iffy to an extent. So advice-based. So guidelines is like, oh, this is how it kind of works, but they're very loose. They're not rigid whatsoever or mandatory, and it's really just more advice and guidance than anything else. So living documents, regularly updated to incorporate new best practices and lessons learned. Now, something where like I think guidelines, so procedures. So like you guys may be familiar with playbooks, for an example. So both red and blue teamers have playbooks that they follow. So that kind of dictates like, oh, if this is happening, then do these steps here. That could be considered a type of procedure, although a large portion of that could be considered a guideline because they're living documents and it's advice-based. So you still have to, like it states here, uses of language would be could or may terminology to suggest approaches without enforcement. So although following your playbooks and so forth is recommended, it's really a guideline depending on your organization, of course, to just help you along that route if you come across a scenario that's in there. So this is just a little comparison chart here. This is going to vary with every single organization, of course. So you have your policies, standards, procedures, and guidelines. And then this is where, again, depends on the organization, but like the update frequency and enforcement itself. So the policies and standards are almost always mandatory, or at least they're supposed to be. And then that's when you get moved into the procedures and guidelines where it becomes a little less so. And I mean, a large portion of that also has to do with the actual organization's enforcement of such too. And then also like the frequency for review. So although I think many other people would say that these should be reviewed at least every 6 or 12 months for a lot of stuff, especially the policies. Policy management, I feel, is like an area that doesn't get enough attention. There's a lot of organizations that just have, outdated policies from 10, 15 years ago that haven't been updated at all. So hopefully we start doing a better job with that. However, yeah, do with that of which you will. So, and then we also have the standards. That's also where I could see the standards also being updated. This is talking about like review process. This could also be done like after an audit or even prior. And then of course we got the procedures and guidelines that are going to be more frequent on an as needed basis or reviewed on a regular process. And then this is just this is just the same image that I had at the very beginning there, just to give you a visualization view of this. And so I'm going to double check chat. I just wanted to give a little bit of a walkthrough of what these 4 different things actually mean and how it's supposed to work with that, along with a little bit of additional information before we start just throwing things into CISO Assistant. Yeah, and so like Josh mentions, it's better not to be specific within policies, just lay out the goals, objectives there. The standards can say to what spec, NIST, etc. you have, procedures, guide, implementation. Yeah. So like your policy would say that you need to have password requirements. Your standard would say that, hey, NIST requires 10 plus characters. And then your procedures would actually walk you through the process of enforcing that or setting that up. Would be an example of that. Welcome to the party, pal, McCoy. Josh also mentions lots of audits require annual review of policies with official sign off, which help drive the review cadence. Well, and I think one of the biggest issues is unless an organization is required to do so, then they probably aren't going to. So like the 853, for an example, even the government doesn't fully implement that. A lot of different controls get, tailored out. So unless there's a business need for it, I feel it is probably going to be difficult to convince them, hey, we need a full-time person to do our policy management. At least for the larger organizations and so forth, they have way more, but I'm pretty sure I've heard PBO talk about that before on how that's like a type of control that would be tailored out. Yeah, and Regine mentions policy is the law, procedures are used to enforce the law. Oh, did you get that set up? Did you set up a CISO Assistant 8-bit? I love it. I mean, I think it's a really awesome thing. My favorite thing about CISO Assistant is the fact that they're making these tools available to small and medium-sized businesses. So, when I'm talking to a small business owner who doesn't know what the hell they're doing, I could at least help them set up something more than a spreadsheet. And, that gets them in the right direction at least. And I also know somebody who has multiple clients and they just set up different domains for multi-client. So they technically run multi-tenants in one installation. And I actually really like the fact that it's also on Docker, because then you could even restrict it and so forth. There's a lot of control over that. Bam. Let me see here. Yeah, and so 8-bit says that he got it up and working and it's running on Docker on a Windows computer. Yep. Oh, and then it looks like Josh is running CISO Assistant too. Bam. Yeah, I mean, I think that's my favorite thing. It's really awesome that they're making it to where, it's open source, 80-90% of the tools or more are in the community edition. But then also there's so much that's in there that I think a lot of people overlook. So it kind of gets you thinking oh, maybe we should do this or maybe we should do that. Yeah, and you should be able to, I'm pretty sure Docker is available on Mac as well. McCoy. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and transition over here to CISO Assistant. Let me get this zoomed in. And we'll go ahead and start working on this part here. So we're almost actually went through that first part, considering even technical difficulties a little quicker than I thought I would. But what I wanted to do here is just showcase, if you guys have any additional questions or any other topics that you want to talk about, definitely drop those in chat. I'm going to jump back and forth and try to make sure that I don't miss anything here. Let's see. And one of the key things I wanted to do is just add these policies in. So on CISO Assistant, on the left-hand side, you'll see here that we have governance and then we have policies. And let me drag that over. Perfect. All right, so in the policy section here under governance, there's also libraries here. I showed this a little bit before. I feel like it wouldn't be a bad thing to also mention that the loaded libraries, what we have in here right now is going to be our CSF 2.0, the 5x5 matrix for the likelihood and impact ratings. And then we also have the MITRE attack framework. So the threats and mitigations here. And this is one of the key reasons why I wanted to come back over here just for a second. So this is loaded in because this allows us to draw the different threats and so forth from the MITRE ATT&CK framework there into our policies directly. And so what I mean by that is when I come over here and I click up here to create a new policy, then I can go ahead and reference a control. So for an example, these are the MITRE ATT&CK sections here. So if I'm, like one of the first things I wanted to add here is code of conduct. So that's going to be a pretty important policy for us to have. Let's see. Just trying to check all of this other stuff here. Bam. All right. So the code of conduct, which is going to be, how everything's handled. Day-to-day is expected to be handled. And so we could reference a control up here at the very top, which I think is really neat. So like if we are making a particular, which I'm sure we'll add a policy here that relates to this. So like account use policies, that could probably be referenced for an acceptable use policy. So that's another really popular one, is acceptable use policy on how people are, how employees or otherwise are, what's considered acceptable use when you use our platforms, our tools, and so forth. And there's a bunch of other ones in here. So data loss prevention, code signing, data backups is another one. And so this just helps us not only brainstorm some additional things, but then also be able to relate that back to a control on the MITRE framework. And so like the data owner or the actual policy owner here, I'm just going to leave blank for now. Code of conduct, progress 0, to do, ETA none. Now, another section here is if you click on more. So I already set the domain for global because we are going to actually go through and start building out these policies next month. But for right now, I'm just going to leave it pretty straightforward. Now we could reference an ID here. We can also go through and set a priority, evidences, all kinds of different stuff that we can go ahead and attach to this. Now this, I think most of this is going to all relate back to this govern section on the CSF 2.0. However, again, that is going to depend. So if we are doing something like with data backups or, like a data recovery policy or data backup policies or otherwise, then we may throw that underneath that recover function instead. And then of course, we can go through and add the rest of this as well. We could even set an effort. How hard is it going to be to implement? So, bam. I'm just going to go ahead and add that for now. Let me double check chat here. Let's see. Curious to see how you organize the policies, i.e. group them into domains, if you will, in order to track them. So I'm throwing everything on global because all of these policies are going to dictate organizationally wide. So I'm not going to fine grain the policies at this time. That's what the actual standards and procedures are going to be for. So that's pretty much my plan here. Now, as far as organizing it, that is where one of the advantages here comes in, because we can organize it and find things via the CSF function, the title, description, so forth. We could reference an ID on it or otherwise if we wanted to. But all of this stuff is going to be organizationally wide. So I'm putting that under the global. Does that kind of answer that? And then like as we go through, we'll also develop other things like related to some of our third parties down here. So like the third parties that we had listed out before, we're going to go through and actually do an assessment on each one of these. And from there, then I'm sure we'll have different procedures and guidelines to add to that. Or that may even refine our policies too, where we're like, oh, well, now we need to update that. And that's also one reason why we're making this list now, but I don't plan on working on actually developing the policies until next month. That's probably what we're going to do all of next month on Monday and Tuesdays for the hands-on is going to be policies. All right, now let me get back to governance. Policies. So code of conduct is one of them. I also mentioned acceptable use. Acceptable use policy. Now, do we have anything in here? I don't think that, like, I don't know the MITRE framework very much at all. User account control. I don't think that would really follow under suit. I was just scanning this real quick for acceptable use relations. Let's see, privilege process, data loss. So we probably should do like a backup policy of some sort. And we also need an information security policy as well. All right, let's see. So I'm going to go ahead and leave that blank for now. We can go ahead and put the status as to do, and then no ETA as of right now. And then this acceptable use is also going to follow underneath that govern section. And then the domain is going to be global. Bam. All right. And then let's do like an information security policy. This is going to be like a meat of the pie. And again, I don't think that there's going to be any like broad control out of the MITRE framework here that we're going to be able to relate that directly to. There's also like password policies, like we could even do a 1-page on password policies or otherwise. But a lot of that stuff would also flow into this information security. I wonder if we could actually select multiple. I haven't tried that. We can. No, it doesn't look like it. So it looks like we can only select one. So that's good to know. So Julist, what we're using right here is called CISO Assistant. So I'm going to go ahead and drop a link in chat here, and you can go ahead and check it out. It is they have a free and open source version of it available on GitHub, and it is a all-in-one GRC tool. So, I mean, they have pretty much everything in here at this time. So you can go ahead and set that up on your own machine on Docker, or you can also do a cloud install as well. If you look at the video that we did on Friday, that one of the co-founders from CISO Assistant did actually live stream with us, showcasing the product setup on installation. I'm going to pull that video here real quick for you. So if you watch this video that I'm dropping in chat, you can go ahead and look at that, and that actually is a walkthrough for setting up CISO Assistant, not only on Docker, but also in the cloud as well. If you have additional questions or otherwise, definitely drop it in chat. GRC Mafia. All right, so information security policy, which is going to be a really big meat of the pie there. I'm going to go ahead and leave those blank for now. We'll go ahead and mark that as to do. And mark that as a global as well. Now let's go ahead and go back. Oh, I keep clicking on things. All right, policies. Bam. All right. Now, what are some of the other options that we probably should have here? One of the other things that I believe we talked about before was like a quality assurance policy. So quality assurance. So what I mean by, and so like there could be a different word that we could use for this too. Maybe like content assurance or something along those lines. Quality assurance, content development. So we can always come back and play with the names a little bit as well, but I definitely wanted to implement some type of policy here that would address quality concerns to where we would actually have a policy implemented that would require like peer review and improvements, areas of actually getting feedback and a set process of such and enforcement. Welcome to the party, pal, Cybercycle. Yep, so I'm just going to go ahead and leave that there for now. Go ahead and mark that as to do, and then worst case scenario, we can come back around to that. We may dissolve that into another policy all on its own, but that's something that I didn't want to really forget about. And then let's go ahead and look at this here. All right, so what are some of the other things we can have? Probably like a conflict of interest policy would probably be another good one. And gift acceptance. So conflict of interest. So conflict of interest is going to be maybe a 1 or 2 page document, hopefully that short, because also another thing that we're going to definitely go by is utilizing plain English. I'm not a lawyer. I'm not an attorney or otherwise. Nothing I say should assume such, but I think we use way too much legal language out there already in today's world, and we really should start working towards getting rid of that. So in a lot of these different policies and procedures, one of the things I was trying to mention in that presentation at the beginning is the fact of making sure that it's clear. What good are these policies when the average everyday person who doesn't know a lot of this terminology looks at it and they have no idea what the hell it means? That makes it pointless. Why would we go through and waste time and money and energy on developing these if it's not going to be able to be utilized? So that's also where that plain English comes in. And there's actually an entire government website all about plain English. So let me go ahead and pull that up here. So this website here, I'm going to transition over to it real quick. So this is called plainlanguage.gov. And they have actual training, like webinars that you can watch, different videos and a style guide and everything else. There's also the plain language guidelines that you can go off of. And the whole point is to just make it more straightforward. Not only just the language itself, but then also, like it says right over here on the left, be concise, keep it conversational, designed for reading. Like there's no reason it needs to be 9-point font or, just words that nobody really uses. Just make it, everyday language is the overall gist of this. And you could spend quite a bit of your time on here. I think the key thing is when you do go through and develop these for your business, then just keep that in mind. We're all either, so you guys are already practitioners or you guys are working to become, go into the industry itself. Just remember, keep it simple. It doesn't need to be overly complicated. Make everybody's world easier. Also, like Josh is also dropping some recommendations, data classification, change management, network security, password policy. Bam. Welcome to the party, pal. Cyber Satyr. And Viper also is popping in. Mike's popping in. GRC Mafia. Incident response. Ooh, okay. you're dropping some really good ones there. Let me go ahead and we'll go ahead and do like a fireside here on popping all of these in here. So conflict of interest policy is one that I wanted to add in. I'm going to throw this in on the global. And every single one of these I want to get done on next month. So you can expect every day, every Monday, Tuesday next month, we're going to be working on policies. All right. And so there was another one I was going to add here too. Gift acceptance. That's what it was. So gift acceptance. So gift acceptance policy would like dictate like, oh, if you know, it's over $50 or if it's over $100, then you have to report that, and certain you know, rules and so forth around that. A lot of that has to do with, you know, conflict of interest, but also professional ethics as well. So I'm going to go ahead and add that there. And then let me go ahead and add these other ones here. So data classification. That sounds like a lot of time and energy there, Josh, for data classification. One of the big things for data classification policy is going to be like, how are we going to classify data? Are we going to do it, you know, like sensitive, classified, restricted, public, sensitive, and so forth? Are we going to go based off of those standards, or are we going to use, you know, like just private and public or otherwise? We would have to actually dictate those and make those in verbiage. I'm going to go ahead and mark that as to do. Global, bam. All right. Now, also another one here is change management. Oh boy, is that another big one. Yeah. Change management's also going to be another large one as well. Let's go ahead and add this in here, to do. All right. We'll go ahead and mark that as global. All right. And then also you mentioned network security. So I would like to say that we don't have to worry about network security, but the fact of the matter is we're all connected in this world, thanks to the internet. And even though we work remotely, there's still network security involved. So yeah, network security would still be another one. And so I thought there's not even one on here. Wow. Okay. I would like to see, this is going to be one of my recommendations to CISO Assistant, is to be able to select multiple reference controls here. Because for an example, network, for a network security policy, we can actually go through and select network segmentation, filter network traffic, and limit access to resources over network, all in the same thing. And it doesn't appear that we can select more than one. So that's probably going to be a recommendation I make. And like part of that network security policy is also going to flow into that information security policy to an extent, or it wouldn't be a bad idea for us to do a system security policy as well. And I'm sure many of you guys have either done it or heard of a system security policy, which is going to be like machine based. But that's going to be another high level view of like, what do we need to do? Do we have to have antivirus? Do we have to have passwords? Do we need to, do we have to have, you know, timeout requirements? Or, you know, like it auto signs you out after 5 minutes or whatever it's dictated into the standards. So do we have to set up multiple, you know, accounts? There's a lot of different things we could do with that. Bam. Incident response is also another policy there that was mentioned. And then I'll double check chat here again. Oh, and I'm not even on the right tab. Bam. Although that plainlanguage.gov is an amazing website. Highly recommend it. 10 out of 10 for, you know, nightly reading. So incident response. That's also going to like dictate like who do we contact? Like when an incident occurs, what type of things do we need to be take into consideration that's going to flow into our standards and eventually into our procedures? We'll go ahead and mark that as a global, and then let me double check chat over here. Change management, network security, password policy. Yeah, password policy is going to be another one here. And so this is where we're just brainstorming, doing some of the prep work and trying to think through some of this here. So like our password policy is going to go through and actually say, you know, oh, it has to be 12 plus characters long. Well, and so this is going to be the policy itself. So it's going to be a little bit more broad, not very specific yet. Our standards are going to be the specific section, but it is going to state that password managers are required. It's going to state that password requirements must be met. And then also, you know, a couple other things there too. Also, like with password policy, we'll probably also throw in there that if available, MFA is also a requirement. Let's see, along with some of the management of that. Change management, let's see. Saders mentions our head of IT says KISS, keep it simple, stupid. Pretty much every day. Yes, exactly. Yeah, that's kind of where I was going with that is, you know, things are already overly complicated, and especially when it comes to policies and procedures and so forth, like there's no reason. Oh, come on, Josh, are you all already failing on me here? So I know we also need a backup. So we have a few more minutes here. So we also need a backup policy. But like I said, we could still leave some of this stuff broad to an extent. So backup, also recovery. And like what we'll probably start with is our information security policy and our system security policy. Which is also going to help with a lot of this stuff too. This is also really going to help me with scheduling out these videos for next month. So it looks like we'll be streaming instead of 1 hour on Monday and Tuesday, it's going to be 2 hours each day. It's starting to look like. GRC Mafia. All right, so let's see here. Also, something like a volunteer policy. So Study GRC is a nonprofit, and we do have volunteers. And we should probably have a volunteer policy on top of that. We do have a volunteer agreement at this time, but we do not have a volunteer policy at this time. But now we're going to. Another really good one would probably be a financial management policy. Probably wouldn't be a bad idea. So I'm sure there's a fancier word for it, but we'll go ahead and go with financial management policy for now. I kind of feel like there's a better word for it, but that's going to definitely coincide very closely to our CFO, B-Dubs, who's probably listening in right now going, oh, I have enough work already. All right, let's see. What are some of the other ones that we could go with? Let's see. Oh, we haven't even discussed like an AI usage. So AI usage policy. So what is going to be our policy on AI and how we use it? How are we allowed to use it? Go ahead and mark that as to do. And this is like another really cool feature I really like about this section here. So like for an example, if I go over to code of conduct, I can go ahead and edit this. I can go ahead and add myself as an owner here or otherwise. And I don't know if it's going to show up right now. Yeah, so if I head on over to my assignments, then we can go ahead and see that I do have code of conduct thrown up here underneath my assignments. And so I can assign these different policies to me or to another individual on the team within CISO Assistant. And I have my own area here to track such. So then I can just click on that right there and bam, I have it all up here. So bam. I'm going to go back over to govern policies. All right, so we got our AI usage. Oh, and then B-Dubs is lurking. Working on all of these tasks you assigned me. I trust that. I definitely believe that. B-Dubs is definitely a busy individual these days. Third-party management, data retention. Ooh, data retention. Data retention. Bam. Oh, and then also to let you guys know as well, now that you guys are sticking in, we're coming down to the last few minutes. I am going to throw up another random live stream here in about, I don't know, maybe 30 minutes or so following this stream. I am going to be testing out another type of software. I could probably go through and just do a private video or something like that, but I figured, hey, what's the best way to test new streaming software or other things that could benefit the community than to go live? Why not? What's the worst that could possibly happen? As is, I don't even have audio, so we'll see how this goes, but I just want to test out that software and so forth. So many of you guys will most likely get a ping notification shortly following this of a random live stream. And so that will, I don't know how long I'll stream for, but I'm just going to test out some new software, and whoever is available to join or otherwise, you're more than welcome to. All right. So, while I don't think Memoreletti's in chat right now, but B-Dubs. So B-Dubs is the CFO and the VP for Study GRC. Since you are listening in, B-Dubs, what is our policy on testing in prod? That would most likely follow underneath our change management policy, I would assume, or that third party, some form of onboard. And I'm adding data disposal as a secondary. I kind of feel like calling it data destruction. Bam. Yeah, and like B-Dub says, always test in production. Yeah. It's a lot easier when you have, GRC Mafia. All right, now, there are a couple other things too. So, like data protection policy would be another one. Some of these may overlap to an extent. And then also an employee handbook is also another really important one as well. Ooh, I did not set a to-do on that one. That's all right. So employee handbook, that technically would still follow underneath a policy to an extent. I'm going to add it there for now. Remote work policy is another good one. Yeah, and if you guys have any questions or anything else, definitely drop that in chat. So I'm going to stick on here for a couple more minutes, and then I'm going to end it here. And then I'm going to go into this other tool here and get another live stream posted out. So the key thing for today, we started out with the presentation going through and just outlining what policies were, standards, procedures, and guidelines were by definition, and how those kind of rank I can actually go ahead and transition back over to there. So this is the ending slide here for the guidelines, procedures, standards, and policies. We talked a little bit about that, just so that way, that's like some of the foundations of the governance framework of policy management, really, for all of this, how it's supposed to be done. According to NIST. And NIST does have some wonderful documents on this information as well. I'm pretty sure I have those in our resource section on our Discord server. And then we moved over here to CISO Assistant, where we're just lining out, brainstorming what policies are we going to work on next month, and taking it from there. Now, one of the other things I want to mention too is, so tomorrow we'll be going through and doing starting CSF 2.0. And then Wednesday, we'll be doing a deep dive on VLAN. So before we talked about just kind of like a high level view of some of the different networking. We did like a networking 101 and how networking kind of works from a very high level. Somebody asked a really good question about VLANs for virtual LAN. And I decided we might as well just go through and do a deep dive on that. Starting next month, I would like to, on Monday and Tuesdays, start working on the policies. And then on Wednesdays, I'm actually going to go through and start working on labs. So actual technical labs, probably in AWS to start with, and we'll take it from there. But also as questions come up and requests come in, then we can adjust that and go from hands-on labs, and then the next month we could go through and do deep dives on particular questions or otherwise, or do additional streams as well. Let's see. Cyber giving that high stress. All right, let's see. Grading. Yeah, so I'm just going over some of my notes here too. I wish I could say that we wouldn't need it, but I'm going to go ahead and add it on here anyways. So a policy on whistleblower is probably not a bad idea. So a whistleblower policy that actually dictates that, hey, if you have a good intent or otherwise, like go ahead and break NDAs or whatever the hell. That's also one of the benefits with running a nonprofit. I've mentioned it before on the fact that we're not really worried so much about copyright or anything else. It's really just for the community. Like there's no competitive advantage here other than just building community and trying to make the industry easier. So bam. Figured I might as well throw that in there. That's pretty much what I got here. Social media. So social media, I think what we would probably have instead is probably a communications policy. So communications policy, which would probably coincide with social media as well. So social media and communications. So that would be like PR and so forth, and a policy on that. That could dictate on the fact that like the only spokespersons for Study GRC is the board itself, all of which has a shared responsibility. Bam. Yeah. And thanks for the feedback there too, Josh, on it being a great session. I'm going to go ahead and end the stream here in just a moment and get this other software up and running. Yeah, next month is going to be absolute fire for sure. We have a really awesome talk coming up on Thursday as well about product security and GRC and how the two can combine and really team up together. That's with Chad Butler, who really like specializes in that product security. I don't feel like that's a topic that's really widely discussed as much. Like I've probably heard more information out there for like ICS and critical infrastructure than product security. So I find that talk to be pretty interesting coming up on Thursday night. And then, like I said, we'll be back again tomorrow. And tomorrow we'll be starting CSF 2.0. And then on Wednesday, we'll be jumping into VLAN deep dive. So, and we're not even halfway through the month yet, but you can probably expect like the 22nd, the weekend of the 22nd is when I'll schedule out the videos for next month, which is going to include actual hands-on labs that you guys can walk through with me. So every single one of the labs that I'm going to be doing on hands-on is going to be freely available. You just have to make an account and so forth, and you could walk through it at the same time with me or whenever you watch on replay. And then we'll start doing those policies from scratch as well. So one by one. Looking at just the list we have here already, we already have 24 different policies loaded in. And we'll probably be starting with information security policy and system information security policy, the SSP, to begin with and work our way from there. But I have a feeling we're going to be putting in quite a few hours next month. So, yeah. But yeah, thank you all for hopping in and joining me. And GRC Mafia, I'll catch you guys in Discord. I'm going to go ahead and drop that link one more time. And then I will be back again here shortly to test this other software out. You guys have a great rest of your day. Have an awesome week. I'll catch you guys tomorrow if you guys can't catch me here shortly. GRC Mafia. And again, if you guys have any questions whatsoever, hop in Discord, drop it in chat, put it in the comments. There's plenty of people out there more than willing to assist you along your journey or otherwise. We're really just trying to make it a more secure future for everybody. And it's way too difficult to see through the smoke and mirrors. So just ask. GRC Mafia.